So actual murderers got pardoned because they agreed to drink coffee. Coffee experiment enthusiast Professor Jelly here. No, look, I know. But coffee needs no introduction. It's hot bean water that turns frowns into smiles. But coffee has not always had the same mundane image that it claims these days. In fact, at one point in time, the black liquid was considered so dangerous that it was thought of as a life-destroying drug. As an example for how coffee was viewed back in the day, in 1674, a popular public letter came out in England called the Women's Petition Against Coffee, which has some just absolutely Shakespearean quotes.
The excessive use of newfangled abominable heathenish liquor called coffee has enoughed our husbands and crippled our more kind gallants, that they are become as impotent as age. For the continual sipping of this pitiful drink is enough to bewitch men of 22 and tie up the codpiece point without a charm.
Believe you me, this book is a read of the ages. I actually cannot read you anymore without this video becoming immediately X-rated, so you'll just have to take my word on that. What may even be more interesting is that there's a lot of evidence saying that this letter was not written by Monty Python and Drag, but instead was commissioned directly by the king himself, Charles II. See, one of the reasons why coffee houses had such a bad rap during this period was, unlike the wholesome family-friendly places that served beer, wine, and liquor, coffee houses were usually filled with disgustingly sober people. Sober people discussing new ideas. New ideas that usually didn't have the most favorable view of the current state of government. Which is why, if you were the government, you possibly did not have the highest opinion of these places. During this period, coffee drinking in Europe was severely restricted or outright banned, usually with little effect on the actual consumption of the drink. Sweden was no different. They taxed it, didn't work. Banned it, nothing. They even confiscated people's coffee cups who didn't pay the fines. Imagine getting arrested over coffee. You'd be like, I swear, I thought it was cocoa. It was during this period that an infamous experiment would happen, forever changing the land of caffeine, being referenced everywhere from academic journals to medical papers. Its name? Gustav III's coffee experiment. Gustav had just retaken the throne in the coup, and after he was done with that pesky parliament, he set his eyes on the one true greatest evil in the country: coffee. Tired of the previous wishy-washy restrictions, he ordered an experiment be conducted, proving once and for all the evils of the vile drink. So the king searched the jails and prisons of the land until he found two twins convicted of murder who were on their way to the old chopping block. And he gave them an offer they couldn't refuse. One twin would drink 3 pots of tea, and the other would drink 3 pots of coffee every single day for the rest of their lives. And in turn, the 2 prisoners would be spared from execution. Unsurprisingly, both twins agreed, and a prominent physician was assigned to each twin to monitor the horrid health effects that would soon come from the vile drink. And with the experiment set up, the drink started pouring, day after day, month after month, year after year. The men just kept chugging, just 3 pots in a cot. 2 genetically identical men, both drinking the same amount of 2 different beverages. It was building up to a scientific breakthrough. But things would not be so simple. Because the king thought that drinking such an amount of what he felt was poison would kill the prisoners immediately, he had not planned on the experiment running for very long. So the immediate non-death of the men very quickly became very irritating. But then one of the doctors died. And then the other doctor died. And then Gustav himself goofed around and got assassinated. So... But darn it, we are figuring this thing out, so the men were forced to continue the drink. And this went on and on and on, until eventually, years after everyone else who had originally been part of the experiment had died, one of the prisoners finally crowed. It was the tea drinker at age 83. We don't actually know what happened to the coffee guy. He's probably still throwing back jugs in Maxwell House as we speak. And this is where a lot of people would say, and that's the story of Gustav III's coffee experiment. But I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. There's something about this story that's a bit off. Not all the way off, but enough. The biggest problem is the whole twin thing, which is something that the moment you start to think about it, kind of falls apart. So 2 identical twins are in prison for murder in the same place at the same time, both receiving the death penalty. This must be one particularly crime-infested family, and it also doesn't help that in half the stories there's absolutely no mention of them being twins. And there's also some questions about the story itself, because the entire story is literally what I just told you. One set of twins, one drinks coffee, one drinks tea, everybody dies before the twins do, and the tea drinker lives to be 83. That's it. That's the entire story anywhere you look. And as is mentioned in popular science, while the story of the experiment is told in many articles and books, there is no original primary source that gets cited. And also, even if it did happen exactly as it was described, it definitely didn't prove that coffee was a poison. In fact, some medical experts have written that the amount of coffee in this particular situation could have possibly protected that prisoner's heart. So I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I am saying it doesn't make a latte sense. And frankly, it didn't prove that tea was dangerous either, because while the tea drinker did die first, he lived to be 83 in the 1700s. I guess sometimes that it can be hard to express the truth. The Swedish government kept trying to get rid of coffee until the 1820s. When they finally gave up and the ban was lifted, Sweden ended up becoming one of the highest coffee consuming countries in the world, which left Gustav III's coffee experiment as an often mentioned but rarely cited story that will probably be in the next BuzzFeed article that you read. This has been Professor Jelly. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe. You also may like this video I did about hot Dr. Pepper. Check it out.